At a steady podcast pace, this should land around 22 to 28 minutes. And if you slow the delivery, pause after key lines, and let the emotions breathe, it can stretch closer to 30.
UCLA beat South Carolina 79-51 to win the program's first NCAA women's basketball championship, finishing 37-1. Gabriela Yaquez led with 21 points,
and Lauren Betts added 16 points and 11 rebounds as UCLA took control early and never gave it back. AP News, this is Sergio Betts from Westwood, Los Angeles, and this is a postgame UCLA women's basketball podcast after the dominant national championship victory over South Carolina. This is the kind of moment I have been documenting all season across Medium, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. I do not just show up for the ending. I stay with the team. I stay with the details. I stay with the standard. I stay with the real basketball. And tonight, UCLA women's basketball did not just win the national championship. UCLA made history in a way that left no doubt about who owned the biggest stage. This was not luck. This was not timing. This was not some random hot night where everything just happened to go right. This was a team being completely ready for the biggest moment of the season and answering it with force, discipline, composure, and full execution. UCLA beat South Carolina 79-51, finished 37-1, and won the first NCAA women's basketball championship in program history. That is not a small result. That is not just a nice headline. That is the kind of result that changes how a program is talked about forever. AP News, and the biggest reason this hit so hard is because this did not feel random. This felt earned. This felt built. This felt like a group that had already been through enough pain, enough pressure, enough buildup, enough expectation, and enough big moment disappointment that by the time this night finally arrived, UCLA was no longer surprised by what the game required. UCLA looked like a team that understood exactly what a championship game demands and had finally become disciplined enough, mature enough, and connected enough to meet that demand the right way. That is what stood out to me most. Not just that UCLA won, but the way UCLA won. Because there is a difference between surviving a championship game and owning a championship game. UCLA owned this game from the beginning. From the first quarter, from the emotional tone, from the defensive seriousness, from the offensive clarity, from the body language, from the pace, from the way South Carolina kept looking like the team trying to recover instead of the team in control. UCLA did not spend the first 10 minutes trying to prove it belonged. UCLA acted like it already knew. The Bruins led 21-10 after the first quarter, and that mattered because it told the whole story of the night. UCLA was not easing into the game. The Bruins led 21-10 after the first quarter, and that mattered because it told the whole story of the night. UCLA was not easing into the game. UCLA was not admiring the stage. UCLA was not waiting for the championship to explain itself. UCLA sprinted into the night with the kind of force that makes the opponent feel the pressure first. AP News. That is one of the biggest differences between a team that is almost ready and a team that is fully ready. A team that is almost ready still needs the game to reassure it. A team that is fully ready tells the game what it is going to be. That is what UCLA did. And I want to say this clearly because I have been on this all season. When UCLA is at its best, this team does not just win with talent. UCLA wins with structure. UCLA wins with connection. UCLA wins with control. UCLA wins with real possession-by-possession seriousness. UCLA does not need the game to become chaotic to feel alive. UCLA is strongest when the game becomes disciplined and the opponent has to keep defending clean basketball over and over until the weight of that starts to show. That is what happened tonight. South Carolina did not just get outscored.
South Carolina got overwhelmed by a team that knew exactly how it wanted the game to feel. That matters, because championship basketball is not just about who has players. Championship basketball is about who can keep the game in the shape they wanted for the longest. Tonight, that was UCLA. And if we are talking about the players, then we have to start with Gabriela Yaquez. Because what Gabriela gave UCLA on this stage was a complete grown performance. 21 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. That is not just a hot game. That is not just somebody scoring. That is a player imposing herself on every part of the night. Gabriela was tough, poised, productive, and all-around winning in the biggest moment of the season. She gave UCLA a full adult basketball performance when the title was on the line. AP News. And that is why I keep coming back to the phrase grown possession basketball. Because Gabriela embodied it. She was not out there floating. She was not out there playing cute. She was not out there waiting for somebody else to define the moment. She gave UCLA heart, toughness, rebounding, storing, and connective value. She looked like someone who understood exactly what the game needed and was willing to give it. That matters more to me than flashy basketball. It matters because championship games are often won by whoever can stay the most emotionally adult when the pressure is loudest. Gabriela Yaquez was emotionally adult all night. Then there's Lauren Betts. Lauren Betts gave UCLA 16 points and 11 rebounds and was named the most outstanding player of the Final Four. And when you talk about Lauren, the most important thing is not just her stat line. It is the way she shapes everything. Lauren changes what the opponent can do. Lauren changes how the paint feels. Lauren changes what kind of help is needed. Lauren changes how clean the rest of UCLA's game can become. She is not just a scorer. She is an anchor. She is an organizer. She is a presence that can make the whole shape of a game feel different. Tonight, she helped anchor a championship performance. AP News. And that is why the Lauren conversation has always been bigger than points. Because elite interior players are not just people who collect baskets. They are people who bend the entire game around their existence. They make drives look different. They make post entries matter more. They make defensive rotations feel more urgent. They make rebounds feel more necessary. They make everything in the paint feel heavier for the other team. Lauren Betts did that all season, and on the final night, she did it again. Then you move to Kiki Rice. And what Kiki has always meant to me is command. Not just skill, not just talent, not just being a highly ranked player, command. The ability to keep the game under control when the environment gets loud. The ability to help the whole team stay inside itself. The ability to make sure UCLA does not get pulled into the wrong rhythm, emotionally or structurally. That kind of leadership is real, and it is part of why UCLA looked so calm. Kiki helps the game make sense. Then Gianna Meepkins, then Charlize Leger-Walker, then Angela Dugalich, and Lita Billage, then Sienna Betts, then Amanda Muse, then Christina Caramuzzi. All of them are part of this title. And I say that because I do not want this turned into one-player talk. UCLA's official roster this season included Kiki, Christina, Charlize, Gianna, Lena, Gabriela, Sienna, Tima, Lauren, Angela, Amanda, and Megan. This championship belongs to the full group, even when different names carry different parts of the journey. UCLA, that is what makes this special. This was not one player saving the day. This was not one quarter deciding everything. This was the whole team, the whole season, the whole structure, the whole standard. And yes, the veteran group led this. That part matters too. Because if you look at the emotional life of this team, you can feel how much history was sitting behind this night. The seniors and veteran leaders knew what previous losses felt like. They knew what it meant to come up short in big moments. They knew what it meant for people to say UCLA had not yet proven it at the highest level. They knew the weight of unfinished business, and they carried that into this championship game the right way. Not as fear, as maturity. That is the difference. A less mature team carries past pain into the next big game and gets tight. A more mature team carries past pain into the next big game and gets sharper. UCLA got sharper. That is why this title feels so earned. Because it does not feel like a team stumbled into the right night. It feels like a team finally became exactly what all the previous lessons were trying to make it become. That is the deepest compliment I can give this group. And I also want to stay with the defense for a second, because South Carolina scoring 51 points in the national championship game is not some side note. That is a statement. That is UCLA taking one of the strongest programs in women's basketball and making the game feel uncomfortable for them from the opening quarter forward. South Carolina never looked settled. South Carolina never looked like it had real control of the emotional flow of the game. UCLA's defense made the championship feel one-sided. ESPN.com. That is championship defense. And defense, to me, is always a truth teller. Defense tells you how serious a team is. Defense tells you how committed a team is to each other. Defense tells you whether the group will still choose discipline when the easier option is just emotion. Defense tells you whether a team can survive ugly possessions and still keep the structure. Tonight, UCLA's defense told the truth. It told the truth that this team was ready. It told the truth that this team trusted itself. It told the truth that this team had grown. And then you zoom out to the season, 37-1. That is not just the title season. That is a historic season. That is a season that permanently changes how the program is remembered. That is a season that puts this team into the part of history that no one gets to touch casually again. And if we are talking about history, then this part matters too. This was UCLA's first NCAA women's basketball title, but the program also won the 1978 AIAW title before the NCAA era. Both things matter. Both things should be said. Tonight, put UCLA on top of the NCAA era while also honoring a deeper women's basketball history that should never be erased. AP News. That is part of what makes this feel complete. This championship belongs to now, but it also belongs to before. It belongs to the women who built the program. It belongs to the women who pushed it forward. It belongs to the players who came close. It belongs to the people who helped make this kind of night possible, even before the NCAA trophy was there. And now, this group has given UCLA the NCAA banner to go with that deeper legacy. That matters. Then we have to talk about Coach Corey Close, because if you want to understand why this championship feels real, start with the fact that UCLA looked built, not just assembled. There is a difference between collecting names and building a championship team. A built team has trust. A built team has structure. A built team has emotional discipline. A built team knows what to do when the game gets heavy. That is what UCLA looked like tonight. That is coaching. The Wall Street Journal. And I want to say to staff out loud too. Corey, Tony, Tasha, James, Michaela, because plenty of teams are talented enough to get close. Very few teams are prepared enough to finish the final night like this. UCLA finished it. That is what separates this title. It was not stolen. It was not escaped with. It was taken. Taken with the 79-50 final score. Taken with the 37-1 season behind it. Taken with veteran leadership. Taken with all-around team basketball. Taken with defense, rebounding, poise, and full game seriousness. That is why this game feels so satisfying. It feels like the basketball matched the meaning. That does not always happen. Sometimes a team wins and you still feel like the game got weird. Sometimes a team wins and you still feel like the result was more dramatic than earned. This did not feel like that. This felt like a team fully revealing what it had become. That is why I think this title is going to age so well in memory. Because when people look back at it, they are not just going to see the trophy. They are going to see the score. They are going to see the control. They are going to see the way South Carolina looked overwhelmed. They are going to see Gabriella's complete game. They are going to see Lauren's championship presence. They are going to see the full structure of UCLA women's basketball finally meeting the moment in the exact way it had to. And as somebody who has covered this team all season across Medium, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter, that is the part that stays with me. Not just that they won in a way that answered everything. Answered the doubts, answered the old pain, answered the missed chances, answered the question of whether UCLA could do it on the biggest stage, answered the question of whether this group was truly ready, answered the question of whether the standard was real. It was real. Tonight proved it. So yes, celebrate Gabriella Yaquez. Celebrate Lauren Betts. Celebrate Kiki Rice. Celebrate Gianna Neepkins. Celebrate Charlize Ledger Walker. Celebrate Angela Dugalich. Celebrate Lena Billage, Sienna Betts, Amanda Muse, Christina Karamazui, and the full group that stayed connected enough to make this possible. Celebrate Corey Close and the entire staff for building something strong enough to survive the final test. Celebrate the veterans who gave everything they had to this jersey. Celebrate the players who stayed ready. Celebrate the team that learned from the past and refused to let the moment beat them again. Celebrate 79-51. Celebrate 37-1. Celebrate the first NCAA title. Celebrate the fact that UCLA women's basketball is now the team that finished the job. Because nobody can ever take that away now. Now they have done it. Now they are national champions. Now this season belongs to history. This is Sergio Betts from Westwood, Los Angeles, and this is the kind of UCLA women's basketball moment I have been documenting all season across Medium, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. Real-time feeling, real basketball, real standards. Real coverage built around staying with the team, staying with the details, and staying with the truth of what this program was building. And tonight, the truth was simple. UCLA was ready. UCLA was stronger. UCLA was more disciplined. UCLA was more connected. UCLA was the best team on the floor. UCLA won the national championship the right way. Go Bruins. This moment felt even bigger because this was their last year of eligibility, their last year to do it all, and they definitely did it on the biggest stage possible. That is what makes this so powerful. The seniors, Kiki Rice, Gabriella Yaquez, and Lauren Betts. As seniors, and Charlize Ledger Walker, Gianna Neepkins, and Angela Dugalich as graduate players. Gave everything they had, and now they are the group that won UCLA women's basketball's first ever national championship. Go Bruins. As far as I am concerned, Gabriella Yaquez outplayed every shooting guard UCLA saw in this tournament. She helped beat Texas, helped beat South Carolina, and delivered on the biggest stage with 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in the national championship game. Sergio believes Lauren Betts is the best player in the country, and Gabriella Yaquez proved she is the best shooting guard in the country.
Together, they led us, well as the seniors who love each other so much, a whole lead UCLA to a 79-51 win over South Carolina and the program's first NCAA women's basketball championship. Go Bruins!